Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. When you think about images of mourning, the images that come to mind for me are like tears, people weeping, grieving over loss, knowing that things aren't the way that they should be. And Jesus says that when you mourn, you are blessed, that He will comfort you. The promise He attaches that is that you will be comforted. Jesus exemplifies what it means to be blessed in mourning when we see throughout His life that the brokenness in the world brought Him to a place of grief. We see in Matthew 9, verse 36, that He sees a helpless crowd and it says He has compassion for them. He feels deeply for them. It says they're like sheep without a shepherd. They're lost and they need help. And it brings Him to a place of grief over that. In John 11, when Jesus' friend Lazarus dies, it says that Jesus wept, not just teared up a bit, but wept. I wonder, was He sobbing? Was He grieving over the loss of His friend and just the condition of death that people face? In Luke 13, He feels a grief over the stubbornness of the people in Jerusalem, that they refuse to hear His message. They refuse to treat Him as king. And it brings Him to a place of grief and lament and mourning. Jesus mourned. And so as Jesus' people, how do we mourn? And what should we mourn about? As I've been processing it personally, I'd share with you, and hopefully it will help you as you process what does it mean to be blessed in mourning, is this, that when I look at the world around me and I look at the brokenness and the sin, does it stir up a feeling of loss and mourning in me? When I look at the broken systems currently in our country that is the forefront of conversation, and the racial tension and the racism that still exists in our country and the injustices through systems, does that bring me to a place of mourning? Am I torn up over that? When I look at other issues in culture like abortion, something I've been thinking through lately is I mourn over that. Me and my wife are expecting our first child, and that's brought us so much joy. And so the thought that someone would find themselves in a place where they're pregnant and not feel joy, but instead feel afraid and think that their only option is abortion, that makes me sad and grieve for that. Looking at just the sin in my friend groups and things that we struggle with, does that make me feel sorrow for the sin? And then when I internalize that and I realize I'm just as sinful as the culture around me. I struggle with my own prejudices. I struggle with things that I don't take seriously. I know that I have sinned against God and against people who I claim to love. And when I step back and realize that, the condition of my heart should be mourning. Question I've had is when's the last time you've teared up or been brought to a place of sorrow over the own sin that you struggle with and maybe the addictions that you can't overcome? Have you cried over your own condition of sin? And yet in this, Jesus says that you're blessed. If you feel that sorrow and mourning over the condition of sin in our world and in yourself, you are blessed because I will comfort you. You will be comforted. He gives us these promises. In 2 Corinthians 1:3-7, it says that we've been comforted by the Spirit of God so that we can comfort others. When we receive comfort in our mourning, the expectation is not that we would just be blessed by God, but then as the King's people would extend that blessing to others, that we would seek out those who are experiencing loss and grieving, and that we would offer them hope and comfort. So that's the promise we cling to, is that when we feel sorrow over the world's condition and our own personal brokenness, we are actually blessed. And we can cling to Jesus' words in John 14, where he tells his disciples, don't let your hearts be troubled. Believe in God and believe also in me. In my Father's house there are many rooms. If it were not so, I would not have told you that I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and take you to myself, that where I am, you may be also. And we can cling to that promise that Jesus sees us in our grieving and our mourning over sin and brokenness, and he actually longs to bless us and comfort us and bring us to himself, and where we can experience true comfort. And so that's this beatitude: blessed are those who mourn, for they'll be comforted.
Alongside new wine we're also going to look at the song Whole Heart by Hillsong United. And this song goes alongside Matthew 5:4, which says, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted." And this song is a really good image of how the Lord is going to walk alongside us and comfort us, even in the moments where we're caught in sadness or in pain. And my favorite part of the song is the pre-chorus, where it says, "You pulled me from the clay, you set me on a rock, you called me by your name, and made my heart whole again." And this line really hits me hard because it makes me feel like in the moments whenever I'm abandoned, when I'm hurting, that the Lord is going to walk alongside me. And even when we mourn for those that are around us, the Lord is going to bring us comfort in those times so that we can also be comforters to those around us. We hope that as you listen to the song this week, that you guys enjoy it and that you find life in it and that you find comfort in it too.